stood before the council of houses with her hands clasped behind her back. The great hall was cold, made of black stone that seemed to swallow light. 12 elders sat in their high chairs, looking down at her with faces that showed nothing. "Third daughter of house," the head counselor said. His voice echoed in the chamber. "You have been chosen for a great honor." Knew what was coming. This was not an honor. This was a duty no one else wanted. "The humans have requested a marriage bond to seal our alliance. You will be wed to one of their representatives." She kept her face calm, but inside her heart sank. They were a proud warrior race. They were tall, strong, and lived for 300 years. Humans were different. The reports said they were small, weak, and died after barely 80 years. They came from a heavy gravity world, but somehow that made them slower, not stronger. They had no psychic powers, no natural weapons, no honor traditions that made sense. "I accept," said, because that was what third daughters did. Her older sisters were too important for such a task. They commanded fleets and negotiated with powerful empires, was merely adequate at everything, good enough to send away. 3 days later, she stood aboard the Eternal Honor, the great cruiser that served as neutral ground for the peace talks. She wore her formal armor, polished until it gleamed. Her honor blade hung at her side. She wanted to look like a proper, even if she was being married off to a species barely out of their own solar system. The human delegation arrived in a small shuttle, watched them walk through the airlock. They wore simple uniforms, dark blue with strange symbols. They were short compared to, coming up only to her shoulder. Their skin was smooth, their bodies soft-looking. No scales, no natural armor, nothing that marked them as warriors. One human stepped forward. He was quiet-looking with dark hair and calm eyes. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "I am," he said in surprisingly good. "I understand we are to be married." Studied him, he looked ordinary. His file said he was an engineer, someone who fixed fusion reactors, not even a soldier. She felt insulted. At least they could have sent a warrior. "I am of house," she replied. "Let us complete this duty." The ceremony was ancient and cold. A priest read words that bound them legally and created a small psychic connection. It was nothing deep, just enough to sense each other's location and general state. Humans had weak psychic presence, so the bond felt thin, like touching smoke. Spoke his vows clearly. He did not stumble over the words. He looked at her with respect, but she could see he did not want this marriage either. They were both trapped by duty. When it was done, they stood side by side in the great hall. Other and humans mingled awkwardly, trying to celebrate a wedding neither species fully understood. Wanted to leave, to go to her quarters and be alone. Then the alarm screamed. Red lights flashed throughout the ship. The floor shook with the impact of something hitting the hull. Officers ran to their stations. Admiral's voice boomed through the speakers. "Raiders, multiple boarding pods inbound. All warriors to defensive positions." The insect-like creatures that swarmed through space, destroying everything. They had no honor, no mercy. They simply consumed. Straining took over. She ran toward the armory, her hand already reaching for her blade. Behind her, she heard the humans shouting, organizing themselves. She glanced back and saw following her. "Stay with the other civilians," she told him. "This is warrior work." "I am bound to you now," he said calmly. "Where you go, I go." She wanted to argue, but there was no time. The ship shook again. Somewhere below, she heard the sound of cutting torches. They were inside. Grabbed a plasma rifle from the armory and checked its charge. Perfect. She had trained for this her entire life. Were born warriors. They lived for battle and died with honor. She joined her squad in Corridor 7. 12 soldiers, all experienced already. Their commander, a veteran named, nodded to her. "House, good to have you. We hold this corridor or we die trying." "Death before dishonor," replied the traditional response. Stood near the back watching. He carried no weapon. He just observed everything with those calm eyes, felt frustrated. What was he thinking? Did he not understand the danger? The first came around the corner like a nightmare. It was twice the size of a covered in black armor plating with 6 legs and blade-like arms. Behind it came more, many more. Fire shouted. Plasma bolts lit up the corridor. The first fell, then the second, but more kept coming. They climbed on the walls, the ceiling, using their numbers to overwhelm. This was how they fought, endless waves. Fired steadily, her shots precise. Beside her, warriors fell. There were too many. They pressed forward, cutting through armor, pulling soldiers down. Fall back, ordered. Fall back to Junction 4. They retreated step by step, firing as they went. Hearts pounded. This was worse than the reports said. There were supposed to be raiders, not an army. At Junction 4, they regrouped. Only 8 warriors left. Reloaded her rifle with shaking hands. She was afraid now, though she would never show it. Stood behind them, still watching, still calm. "We should seal the reactor sections," he said quietly. "If they breach those, the whole ship dies." "We know our duty," Human snapped. "We hold here." Said nothing more, he simply waited. They came again, and this time there was no falling back. They were surrounded. Raised her blade as her rifle ran dry. She would die here, married only 3 hours to a human she did not know. She prepared for death with honor. Then stepped forward and asked quietly, "May I?" Barely understood the question. They were seconds away, their terrible clicking sounds filling the corridor. Behind her, the remaining warriors prepared for their last stand. And her new husband, this quiet engineer, was asking permission for something. "May you what?" she gasped. "Engage," said simply. She did not have time to think, she nodded. What happened next would replay in his mind for years to come. Moved, not like a warrior charging into battle with war cries and honor. He moved like water flowing downhill, like physics had negotiated with him personally. He picked up a fallen warrior's honor blade in one hand and kept his other hand empty. The first lunged at him with blade arms extended, stepped to the side, so small a movement that almost missed it. This momentum carried it past him. His blade found the joint where the creature's head met its body. One cut. The fell. The second and third came together, dropped low, impossibly low for someone in armor. The creatures struck each other. While they were tangled, he struck twice. 2 more dead. It was not battle, it was surgery. Watched, her plasma rifle forgotten in her hands. The remaining warriors stood frozen, seeing something they had no words for. Did not fight like fought. There was no honor in it, no glory. He used the environment. When it charged, he dodged behind a support beam and let the creature crash into it. When another tried to flank him, he kicked loose a ceiling panel that fell and trapped the thing's legs. He used their own strength against them, let their aggression become their weakness. Grabbed him from behind, shouted a warning but was already moving. He dropped the blade, grabbed the creature's arm, and did something with his body weight that flipped the massive insect over his shoulder. It crashed to the ground, and its boot came down on its head. 12 entered the junction. 12 died. The corridor became silent except for the sound of breathing steadily. He picked up his dropped blade, wiped it clean, and turned to face the. His expression had not changed. He was not excited or angry. He looked like someone who had just finished a routine task. "The reactor sections," he said calmly. "We should really seal them." Found his voice first. What are you?" "Engineer," replied, "but I used to do other work." Felt her worldview cracking like thin ice. The humans were supposed to be weak. The reports said so. The intelligence briefings confirmed it. But she had just watched one human dismantle 12 raiders in less than a minute. "Come," she heard herself say. "I will go with you to seal the reactors." Admiral found them an hour later. The attack had been repelled, but barely. 40 warriors were dead. Another 60 injured. The ship's medical bay overflowed with wounded. had sealed every reactor section personally, then helped repair the damage to the power systems. He worked quietly, his hands steady, like he had not just killed dozens of enemies. The Admiral was a massive, covered in battle scars, with eyes that had seen 100 fights. She looked at like he was a puzzle she could not solve. "Your file," she said slowly. "It lists you as an engineer, fusion reactor specialist." "That is correct," agreed. "It says nothing about combat training." "I thought it was included," pulled up his personnel file on a nearby console. He scrolled down to a section marked Previous Service. There, ROK 707th Special Mission Battalion, 8 years active duty. Read over his shoulder. The words meant nothing to her at first. Then she accessed the human military database. Her blood went cold. The 707th was not a normal unit. It was special forces, elite soldiers who did impossible missions, hostage rescue, counterterrorism, direct action in enemy territory. The human military had marked service record with honors she was only beginning to understand. "Why did you not fight from the beginning?" Admiral demanded. "I am an engineer now," said. "I left that life. I only fight when necessary." Today was necessary. "Yes." The Admiral stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned to, "Take your husband to your quarters, get rest. But tomorrow I want him in tactical planning. If one human can do this, I need to understand how." Later in her quarters could not sleep. She sat at her desk, accessing the human database, reading everything she could find. Had gone to rest in the adjoining room, giving her space as any respectful spouse would. She read about Earth. The reports had been wrong. Humans were not weak. They were terrifying. Earth had never known peace. Not truly. For their entire history, humans had fought. They fought each other, fought their environment, fought everything. They created weapons that could destroy their own planet. They had nearly wiped themselves out multiple times. She read about human wars, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, names that meant nothing to, but each one represented millions dead, entire generations by conflict. Fought for honor and glory, humans fought to survive. She read about asymmetric warfare, about guerrilla tactics, about special operations. Humans did not fight fair. They could not afford to, so they learned to fight smart. They studied their enemies, found weaknesses, struck from unexpected angles. Entered quietly, carrying 2 cups of something warm. He set one down in front of her. "Tea," he said. "It helps me think." Wrapped her hands around the cup. "Why did you not tell anyone what you were?" "I am an engineer now," he repeated. "That part of my life is over." "But you can still fight like that, like something from our old legends." Sat across from her. "Every human can fight if they need to. We come from a dangerous world. We evolved as hunters. Then we spent 10,000 years hunting each other. Fighting is in our blood, even when we wish it was not." "You do not like it." "No," he said softly. "I have seen too much death. That is why I became an engineer. I wanted to build things instead of breaking them." Looked at this quiet man who had killed so efficiently just hours ago. "We were wrong about humans. The reports said you were weak." "We are weak," said. "Compared to, we are small and fragile. Our bones break easier. We die younger. In a fair fight, we lose." "Then how?" "We learn not to fight fair." He smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Humans are very good at finding unfair advantages. We have to be." The psychic bond between them was still thin, but felt something through it now. Exhaustion, old pain, and underneath it all, determination like iron. She had married this man out of duty. She had expected nothing from him. Now she was beginning to understand that humanity's greatest weapon was not strength or speed or honor. It was the absolute refusal to give up, no matter what. "They have launched a full invasion," she said. "The border colonies are under attack. We will be deployed to help defend them. Nodded, then I will go with you. It will be dangerous. War always is. Finished her tea. It was bitter but warming. Teach me, she said. Teach me how humans fight. We are losing warriors because we only know one way. Maybe it is time we learned another. Looked at her for a long moment. Then he extended his hand, a human gesture of agreement. I will teach you, he said. But I warn you, the human way of war is not honorable. It is ugly and practical and often cruel. Took his hand. Then teach me to be ugly and practical. Teach me to survive. For the first time since the wedding, truly smiled. The colony world of Praxis 7 burned. Stood on the command deck of the, watching through the viewport as they descended. Smoke rose from 3 cities. Hive structures, looking like twisted metal trees, grew from the ruins. The insects had been here for 2 weeks, and they had dug in deep. 60,000 warriors on the ground, Admiral said from the command screen. Another 20,000 arriving today. They have superior numbers, but we have superior training. We will crush them with honor. Glanced at who stood beside her studying tactical displays. His expression was neutral, but she had learned to read the small signs. The slight tightness around his eyes. He disagreed with the Admiral's plan. 3 days ago, she had requested be assigned to her tactical unit. The Admiral refused. He is an engineer, not a strategist, had said. But then the human command had insisted. They quietly mentioned that had advised on 17 successful special operations during his service. The Admiral grudgingly approved. Now watched him work. He did not look at the glory of the deployment, the ranks of warriors ready to charge. He looked at maps, supply lines, communication networks, the boring, unglamorous details that won wars. They landed at forward base Arcturus. Thousands of warriors prepared for the assault. They would charge the nearest hive structure at dawn, overwhelming it with numbers and courage. It was the traditional way, the honorable way. It was also getting them killed at a terrible rate. That night in the command tent spread out a holographic map of the colony. Sat beside him, along with 5 other officers. They looked uncomfortable. Taking advice from a human still felt wrong to them. The direct assault will fail, said quietly. They have been building defenses for 2 weeks. They will see you coming and prepare. Many will die for small gains. Then what do you suggest, human? Commander asked. He was old, traditional. That we show cowardice, refuse to fight. No, I suggest we fight smarter. Highlighted several points on the map. They need 3 things to maintain their hive: food, water, and communication. Right now, they are taking all 3 from the colony's infrastructure. He zoomed in on a power station outside the city. This facility provides power to their hive. They have guards, but not many. Most of their force is positioned for your frontal assault. Then he highlighted a water treatment plant. This supplies water. Again, minimal guards, the think like insects. They mass their strength at the obvious threat. Finally, he marked a communication tower. This is how their different hive sections coordinate. It is adapted technology from the colony. If it goes down, they become confused. You want us to strike supply lines, said with disgust. That is not warfare, that is sabotage. That is winning, replied. Cut their supplies, blind their communication. Then when they are weak and confused, attack. You will lose fewer warriors and gain more ground. The officers argued. It was not honorable. It was not the way. Warriors did not sneak around like thieves. Listened to them and remembered watching fight the efficient, practical, alive. I support this plan, she said. I will lead the strike team. The officers turned to her in shock. She was house, noble blood. She should not volunteer for such dishonorable work. Then I volunteer as well, said a younger officer named. I wish to see this human way of war. One by one, 3 more volunteered, stood and left disgusted, but enough remained. The strike team was small. 15 warriors, 5 human soldiers including and in command. They left before dawn, using the darkness that typically considered cowardly. Moved at the front, using strange devices to check for sensors and traps. The humans wore dark clothing and moved silently. They tried to copy them, but it felt wrong. Warriors should be seen, should announce themselves, should give enemies a chance to defend themselves with honor. But remembered the bodies she had seen. Hundreds of dead, all who had fought with honor. She swallowed her pride and learned. The power station came first. Studied it from a distance, counting guards, watching patrol patterns. He waited and waited, felt impatient. Why not attack? There, whispered, pointing. Patrol change. 30 seconds when both groups are inside. That is when we move. It happened exactly as he predicted. The team moved in, silent and fast. The guards died before they could sound an alarm. Placed charges on the main generators, set timers, and the team. They were 2 kilometers away when the explosion lit up the night. The water plant was next. This time led part of the team. She did what had taught her. Watch, wait, find the moment of weakness, strike fast, disappear. It worked. They barely knew they had been attacked before their water supply was poisoned with industrial chemicals. The communication tower was the hardest. It was better guarded and dawn was coming. Made a decision. Distraction, he said. He sent 1 human soldier to fire shots from the east. The guards rushed that direction and the rest of the team struck from the west. The tower fell. The hive went silent, unable to coordinate between sections. By the time they returned to base, the main force was beginning their assault. But this time, they faced a hive that was powerless, thirsty, and confused. The battle that would have cost thousands of lives was over in hours with minimal casualties. Admiral called to her command ship that evening. The admiral looked tired but pleased. Your mission was successful, said. More successful than I believed possible, the human. His tactics are unusual, but they work. They work because they are practical, said. We sometimes confuse honor with efficiency. Has taught me that we can have both if we are willing to adapt. The admiral nodded slowly. Other commanders are requesting human tactical advisors. It seems we have much to learn. She looked at carefully. Your marriage was arranged for politics, but I see something different now. You work well together. Felt warmth through the psychic bond. Somewhere on the ship was thinking of her. The connection was growing stronger. We do, she agreed. He is not what I expected. None of them are, said. I read the report about fight against on the eternal honor. Then I read about human history, their wars, their determination. We are warriors, but humans are survivors. They do not fight for glory. They fight to live. And that makes them very dangerous. Over the next 3 months and led more missions. Each one was different. Some were sabotage. Some were rescue operations, saving colonists trapped behind lines. Some were intelligence gathering, sneaking into enemy territory to learn their plans. The other warriors began to respect the human methods. It was not about cowardice. It was about choosing when and how to fight, about making the enemy fight on your terms, not theirs. Found herself changing. She still valued honor and courage, but she also valued coming home alive. She valued seeing her warriors survive to fight another day. And she valued the quiet man who had taught her these things. One night after a difficult mission, they sat together in her quarters, was cleaning his weapons with the same careful attention he gave everything. Watched him. On my world, she said, marriages are usually arranged for politics. Love comes later if it comes at all. I did not expect to find it. Looked up, have you? Yes, she said simply. I married you out of duty, but I stay with you out of choice. He smiled, the real smile she had learned to recognize. I feel the same. This was not the life I planned, but it is better than I imagined. The psychic bond between them pulsed with warmth. It was not just a legal connection anymore. It was something real. The war is not over, said. Intelligence reports a super hive forming 3 systems away. If it completes, everything we have done will be meaningless. They will have the strength to take the entire sector. Then we stop it, said. Together. Together, agreed. Outside, stars glittered against the dark. Somewhere among them, they were building their greatest weapon. And somewhere, human and forces were preparing to stop them. The arranged marriage had become a true partnership, and that partnership might be what saved both their peoples. The super hive hung in space like a nightmare made real. Stared at it through the viewport of the assault carrier. They had converted an entire asteroid field into their fortress. Thousands of interconnected structures, each one crawling with warriors. At the center, the Queen's chamber, pulsing with psychic energy that made his head hurt even from this distance. 100,000 warriors, Admiral announced to the assembled forces. Human, and our allies from the Federation. This is the largest military operation in a century. We will break the here, or they will overrun the entire sector. Stood in the briefing room with at her side. Around them, commanders from a dozen races listened to the battle plan. It was brutal and direct. The fleet would bombard the outer defenses while vanguard troops dropped directly into the heart of the hive. The vanguard is a suicide mission, said bluntly. We need warriors willing to die gloriously to open a path for the main force. Volunteers only. His hand went up immediately. This was what she had trained for her entire life. A chance for true glory, to die with honor saving her people. Beside her, raised his hand as well. She looked at him in shock. He met her eyes calmly. Where you go, I go. We agreed on this. This is death, she whispered, almost certain death. Then we die together. His voice was quiet but firm. Through their bond, she felt his determination. He was not being dramatic or heroic. He simply meant what he said. 200 warriors volunteered for the vanguard. Most were seeking honorable death. But 30 humans stepped forward too, and a handful of. They were formed into strike teams, each assigned a different target within the hive. And led Team 7. Their mission, reach the Queen's chamber and plant fusion charges. Simple, impossible, glorious. The night before the assault, could not sleep. She sat in her quarters, writing final messages to her family, saying goodbye to her sisters, apologizing to her parents for not being the daughter they wanted. Entered quietly and sat beside her. He said nothing, just pressed a small device into her hand. It was a data chip. My will, he explained, and letters to my family on Earth. If I die and you survive, please send them. If I survive and you die, she corrected, you could still leave, go back to the main force. You are too valuable to throw away on this. So are you, he replied, but we both know we have to do this. The vanguard will take the heaviest casualties, yes, but someone has to go first. Someone has to open the path. She leaned against him, feeling the warmth of his body. I did not expect to love you. I did not expect to love anyone again, he said. After the things I did in the war, I thought I was too broken. But you fixed something in me I did not know was damaged. They held each other as the ship's clock counted down to battle. The assault began at dawn ship time. The fleet opened fire and the void filled with light and death. Thousands of weapons struck the hive's outer defenses. They swarmed out to meet them, clouds of fighter organisms and defense platforms. The vanguard drop pods launched through the chaos. Strapped herself into the pod next to. Around them, 8 other warriors from Team 7 did the same. They were all veterans, all prepared to die. The pod fell like a meteor. The hive's defenses tried to stop them. Some pods exploded, taking their warriors with them. Watched the counter drop from 200 pods to 190, to 180, to 170. Then they hit. The impact was brutal. The pod tore through 3 layers of hive structure before stopping. The doors blew open, and Team 7 rushed out into hell. Warriors filled the corridor, hundreds of them. The team formed a defensive circle and fought. Plasma rifles fired until they overheated. Honor blades flashed. Warriors fell. "Move," shouted. "We cannot stay here." He was right. Standing still meant death. Led the charge forward, cutting through, pushing deeper into the hive. Behind her, she felt warriors falling through the psychic bond. Team 7 became Team 6, then Team 5. They reached a junction where 3 corridors met. Checked his scanner. Queen's chamber is 2 kilometers that way, but the way is blocked by heavy defenses. "Then we break through," said. They fought meter by meter. They came in endless waves. These were not raiders or scouts. These were defenders of the Queen, willing to die protecting her. His armor was cracked, leaking air. She sealed it with emergency foam and kept fighting. A massive, bigger than any she had seen, blocked the corridor. It stood 3 meters tall, covered in thick armor plates. A guardian warrior, bred specifically to protect the Queen. And the 2 remaining attacked it together. It killed both warriors in seconds, crushing one and tearing the other apart. Faced it alone, her blade ready, knowing she was going to die. Appeared from the side. He had a plasma torch from the pod's tool kit, not a weapon, just a tool. He ran directly at the guardian, dodging its strikes, and jammed the torch into its eye. The creature screamed, drove her blade up through its jaw into its brain. It fell. "Just us now," said. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His left arm hung uselessly. "Just us," agreed. They stumbled forward. The corridors were empty now. All that had gone to fight the main assault. The vanguard had done its job, drawing the defenders away. The Queen's chamber opened before them like a cathedral. It was massive, organic, pulsing with life. And at the center, surrounded by her personal guards, sat the Queen. She was enormous, her body bloated with eggs, her mind radiating psychic power that pressed against like a physical weight. The Queen looked at them with compound eyes and laughed, a sound like breaking glass in their minds. "Two small things," the Queen's thoughts echoed. "Two small, broken things think to kill me. I am eternal, I am the hive, you are nothing." The guards attacked, 6 of them, all guardians, shot 3 with his last plasma charge, killed 1 with her blade, but there were still 2 and they were exhausted. The psychic pressure increased. The Queen was trying to dominate their minds, to turn them into slaves. Felt her will bending, her thoughts becoming fuzzy. Then she felt through their bond. His mind was like iron. The Queen's power broke against it like waves against a cliff. "Humans," he said through gritted teeth, "have very stubborn minds." He pulled a bandolier of charges from his belt, not the fusion charges for the planned demolition. These were smaller, cruder, homemade. "What are you doing?" gasped. "Ending this?" He looked at her and in his eyes she saw love and regret. "Run." "No." "Run." He charged forward toward the Queen. The guardians grabbed him, but he held the detonator. "I told you I wanted to build things, not destroy them, but sometimes destruction is necessary." Ran. She did not want to. Everything in her screamed to stay, to die beside him. But she ran because he asked her to, because her survival meant his sacrifice meant something. Behind her, activated the charges. The explosion shook the entire hive, was thrown forward, crashing through a wall into open space. Her suit's emergency thrusters fired, sending her tumbling away from the dying hive. Through the bond she felt he was still alive, barely. Did it work? His thoughts came weakly. She looked back at the hive. It was breaking apart. The Queen was dead, and without her there were just animals, unable to coordinate. "It worked," she sent back. "You did it." "Good." His presence faded. "Love you." She screamed it through the bond, through space, uselessly. Then a rescue pod appeared beside her, human markings on its side. The door opened and hands pulled her in. "We have him," a human soldier shouted. "The crazy bastard survived. Medical team to Bay 2." did not remember the trip back to the fleet. She woke in the medical bay within the bed next to hers. He was wrapped in bandages, barely conscious but alive. She reached across the space between beds and took his hand. "You are insane," she whispered. "Learn from the best," he whispered back. The war was won. The super hive was destroyed. They were in retreat across the sector, and 2 warriors married out of duty had become legends. 1 year after the super hive fell, stood before the Council of Houses again. This time, she was not the forgotten third daughter. She wore the medals of a war hero. Behind her stood representatives from both human and militaries, waiting to hear her speak. "Honored elders," she began, her voice steady, "I present to you the human combat integration protocols. These tactics, learned from human special forces and adapted for our warriors, have reduced our casualties by 60% while increasing mission success by 40%. She displayed holographic data showing battle after battle, warriors using combined tactics, mixing their traditional strength with human cunning, strike teams that hit fast and disappeared, defensive positions that used terrain instead of just courage. The head counselor, the same one who had assigned her to marry a human, leaned forward. "You have done well, daughter of house, far better than we anticipated. Your marriage has brought us more than alliance. It has brought us victory." Met his eyes. "With respect, counselor, my marriage brought me something more important than victory. It brought me understanding. Humans are not weak. They are not simple. They are survivors who learn to win by being smarter than their enemies. We could learn much from that." The counselor nodded slowly. "Indeed, which is why we are authorizing the expansion of joint training programs. Warriors will study under human instructors. Human soldiers will learn from traditions. Together, you have shown us a better path." After the council session, found waiting in the garden outside. He had recovered from his wounds, though he still moved carefully. The doctors said he would carry the scars forever, but he was alive. That was what mattered. "How did it go?" he asked. They approved everything: the training programs, the joint command structure, even funding for cultural exchange. She sat beside him on a stone bench. "A year ago, they sent me away to marry you because I was expendable. Now they listen to every word I say. You earned that respect." "We earned it," she corrected. "Everything I have accomplished, you were beside me." Smiled, "Not always beside. Sometimes I was behind you, watching your back." She laughed. In the past year, he had taught her to appreciate human humor. It was different from wit, more subtle, often unexpected. "There is something I must tell you," said, suddenly nervous. Through their bond, felt her anxiety and concern. "What is wrong?" "Nothing is wrong. She took a breath. "I am carrying a child." Froze, "That is. How is that possible? The medical experts said our species could not reproduce together." They were wrong. The psychic bond between us went deeper than anyone realized. It changed us both on a fundamental level. The doctors say the child will be healthy, a true hybrid of both species. For a long moment said nothing. Then he pulled her close and she felt overwhelming joy through their connection. "A child," he whispered. "Our child." "Are you happy?" "I am terrified and amazed and more happy than I have words for." He pulled back to look at her face. "What will they say? Your people?" "Some will be angry. Some will call it unnatural. But Admiral has already promised her protection. And I do not care what others think. This child is ours, created by love, not duty." They sat in the garden as the sun set, painting the sky in colors that existed on both their worlds. Around them, and human workers moved together, building the new joint military academy. Children from both species played in the distance, learning each other's games. "When I was sent to marry you," said softly, "I thought my life was over. I thought I was being thrown away. And now I understand that duty can become choice, that strangers can become partners, That love can grow in the strangest places. Squeezed her hand. When I left Earth, I thought I was running from war. I became an engineer because I was tired of fighting, tired of death. But fighting found me anyway. Do you regret it? No, because fighting for us, for our future together, that was different. That was worth it. 3 months later, they renewed their marriage vows. This time, it was their choice. The ceremony mixed in human traditions, wore traditional armor but with human symbols woven into the design, wore his formal military uniform with honor cords. Admiral officiated, speaking words in both languages. What began in duty has become love. What was political has become personal. Let no one say these two species cannot stand together. Warriors from both races attended. Doctor came from Earth, bringing greetings from his family. Sisters attended, their earlier dismissiveness replaced with genuine respect. Even the head counselor sent an official blessing. After the ceremony, as they danced under the stars, whispered, "Do you remember what you said the day we met? Let us complete this duty." Smiled, "I remember. I was so wrong about everything, about you, about humans, about what marriage could be. You thought I was weak. I thought you were ordinary, a simple engineer who would be a political token and nothing more." She looked up at him. "You are the most extraordinary person I have ever known." "You are not what I expected either," he admitted. "I thought we're all arrogant warriors who cared only for glory, but you taught me that honor can coexist with practicality. That strength includes knowing when to adapt." Their child was born 4 months later, a daughter. She had her mother's strength and her father's calm determination. Her eyes changed color with her emotions, a trait from both species. She was the first of her kind, but the doctors said she would not be the last. More human children were coming. They named her, a human name meaning goodness and pleasure. It felt appropriate for a child born from a marriage that should have been a burden but became a blessing. On the edge of the new joint colony and built a home. It was human in some ways and others, but mostly it was theirs. From their garden, they could see the training grounds where human and soldiers learned from each other. One evening, watching the twin suns set, asked the question that had been on her mind. "Do you ever wish things had been different, that we had met naturally instead of being forced together?" Considered it seriously. "No, because if we had met naturally, I might have been too afraid to approach you. You were a noble warrior and I was just trying to forget my past. The arranged marriage forced us to know each other, and knowing you changed everything." "For me too." She leaned against him, their daughter sleeping peacefully in her arms. "The council thought they were punishing me by sending me away. Instead, they gave me the greatest gift of my life." "Us," said. "Us," she agreed. Years would pass. The joint training programs would expand across the sector. Human teams would become known as the most effective military units in the galaxy, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they combined the best of both species. And it all began with an arranged marriage between a third daughter, who thought she was worthless, and an engineer, who was trying to leave his warrior past behind. The galaxy was vast and dangerous. New threats would emerge, but An had learned the most important lesson. Together, combining their strengths, they could face anything. She had married him out of duty. She stayed with him out of love. And together, they had become something neither species could achieve alone. In the garden, as the stars came out, woke and reached toward the sky with tiny hands. She made sounds in both languages, human and mixed together, creating something new. "What is she saying?" asked. Listened carefully. "I think she is saying home." And she was right. This was home. Not our Earth, but the space they had created together. A place where duty had transformed into choice, where strangers had become family, where two different species had proven that love could bridge any divide. The arranged marriage had become a legend, but for An, it was simply their life. complicated, challenging, and more beautiful than either had dared to dream. They had witnessed each other become more than they were alone, not battle deities or legendary warriors, though others called them that. Just two people who had found each other against all odds and chosen, every day, to stay together. That was the real victory, not the war they won, but the life they built afterward. Together,